Welcome to the Best Self Podcast. Today we have got Julie Hruska. Boy, so much excitement, so much fun, so much good energy. I love your juice, little lady. We've got an elite high performance coach crushing it with us for at least the next 25 minutes. Man, you don't leave, you're going to miss something. Julie, so excited to see you, sister.
I am so excited to be here, Brad. Thank you for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to help a lot of people create a life they love.
Absolutely. Well, we scheduled this a couple months ago, and so it's given me a lot of time to collect garbage and all the dirty details about you. I know it's going to be fun for me. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm strapping myself in for this adventure now. I'm like, okay, sitting back, ready for it.
Huge. There's just going to be haymakers for 25 minutes. So, no, there is so many good nuggets. We do share a lot of the same values. We're all about people becoming the best version of themselves and better out improving the previous best version of themselves. And I mean, would you say that's your juice? If you could name your juice, like this is my juice. This is what I roll out of bed and touch the floor, loving to do every day. What would you say your juice is?
Yes, absolutely. I would say that my juice, beyond my energy and enthusiasm for life, is really empowering people to be the best versions of themselves. And we were talking a little bit before we hit that record button about there's always a next level for everyone. No one ever arrives at a station. You can always be improving in the areas of career, relationships, health, finance. There's always a next level. And so it's exciting for me. My juice is really like when I get a text from a client or an email from a client and they're like, amazing day. I had a great afternoon with my wife. We're really reconnecting. Or, wow, I just got this promotion that we've been working on for the last few weeks, last few months. Like when I get that, I'm just like, yes, I'm so aligned with my purpose. I'm really helping people create lives they love. And that just sets my soul on fire.
Oh, you just said it. Soul on fire. I love that. I heard you say that in a different deal. And I was like, oh man, this girl definitely is in the Dalton lane, because I'm the same way. We're always talking about building our soul print and what goes into that. And oh, love it. Makes the hair on my skin stand up just talking to you. I have done my homework on Hruska Nation.
Awesome.
And I love that you talk about health and wellness. I mean, you're fit. You're basically been a health and wellness person for the better part of your life. I mean, some of your jobs leading up to this was directly tied to that. And now you're helping people not just be physically fit, but being fit between the ears as well. So you would probably say that's the number one area to dial into. Would you say the number two area would be maybe clarity?
I believe that mindset comes with health and wellness. I believe you do have to have the physical fitness to have the mental fitness, but they really coincide. So I don't know that I'd say one comes before the other. I really believe everything starts with the foundation of clarity.
Okay.
I like to say there are 3 C's to create a life you love: clarity, courage, and commitment. And clarity is the most important, because if you don't know where you're going, how are you ever going to get there?
Right. I love that. Clarity. So we got courage, we got commitment, and clarity. Were those the 3 C's?
Right. Yeah. Clarity, courage, and commitment. So you start with your vision, right? You have to get clear and envision the life that you really want. Yes. And once you have that vision, you can kind of work backwards from there. Here's where I am now. Here's where I want to go. How am I going to get there? What do I need to make happen? And that's where you start to go through, like you were talking about, health and wellness. Am I in my optimal health? Do I have the energy to get through each and every day? Or am I at like 2 o'clock and I need to go take a nap?
Right.
That's where your health and wellness really gets involved in creating a life you love, because if you don't have the physical fitness, it detracts and takes away from the other areas.
Right.
But then beyond that, yeah, you have to look at in your relationships, like where are you thriving? Where's there room for growth? Looking at your career, like, am I ascending? Am I expanding my perspective? Am I becoming a better version of myself? Or am I like a hamster on the wheel, like going through the motions of life? And that's what I call sleepwalking through life. And that's what happened to me. I was sleepwalking through my life. And I woke up one day and I'm like, whoa, this is not at all the life that God created me to live.
Right. Yeah. What was there a specific, you don't have to dive into this if you don't want to, but was there something that happened and you did some deep reflecting on that one day? Was there something that caused you to make that pivot?
Yes, absolutely. July 13th, 2010. So I'll give you like the 2-minute version of this story.
Okay.
We'll try to condense it. I grew up in Iowa, very conservative family. I kind of followed the role of what I would call a 1950s wife. You know, you grow up, you meet someone, you get married, you have kids, you quit work if you were working at all, you raise your kids. And I did that. Like I went to college, I met a man when I was 18, engaged at 19, married at 20, started having kids at 24. Suddenly by 31, I have 3 kids. I don't have an identity at that point. I'm mom and wife, and no one ever said my name. And so my oldest son had severe dyslexia and ADHD and needed to go to a special school because the public schools couldn't accommodate him and really help him the way he needed to be helped. And so I was like, hey, I can go back to work and then I can work at the school and get a discount. So the idea was I'd go back and get my master's because I'd been out of education for over a decade. I didn't have the skills to be where I needed to be. So I was going back while raising my kids, getting my master's, and the school did Orton Gillingham, and they also did brain-based gender differences training. So I went out to Colorado Springs, Colorado in 2010 to this training, the Gurian Institute, and they were talking all about brain-based gender differences and how the male brain and the female brain work best. And when I was out there, people were asking my opinions. They were asking my name. In fact, one of the people I met out there said, at the end of this training, people are going to remember you and they won't even remember the keynote speaker.
Wow.
I just had this energy around me and I was networking, I was connecting, and I felt alive again.
Yes.
And it was like an asteroid had hit me in the head because I realized I haven't been living my life at all.
Right.
I loved my kids deeply, but that was not all that I was created to be.
No doubt, for sure.
And so that caused a lot of deep reflection, and not always in a good way. You know, sometimes when I say you wake up, you have to face reality, right? And my marriage had some really toxic patterns. It was not what it needed to be. And so I had to go through that painstaking process of, can we heal this? Can we fix it? 4 years after trying to work through some things, that ended. And that's really when, 4 years after waking up is when I really dove into personal development and creating a life that I loved, that was aligned with my purpose.
Right. That is incredible story. Love it. What do you think the biggest stunter of like optimal growth is? When you're working with your clients, when you're working with people, their biggest hurdle, what's the biggest stunter?
Limiting beliefs. And typically the belief, I'm not enough. Like, I'm not enough. I don't deserve this. It comes from typically our childhood, some point in our life. We take it in subconsciously, and then we don't even realize that it's running the show. Until someone or something causes us to reflect.
Right. Yeah, that's good. I agree. I often talk about how people get stuck with fear because it's familiar.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you would want to be stuck on fear, because
Yeah.
to me, and now you're talking to, on a lighter side, you're talking to a massive weenie here. I mean, we go to Disneyland and I'm not getting on
Face
California,
Mountain.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah. I'm that. And if I am, it's like the white knuckle death grip on the handles. That's me. I'm kind of a weenie that way. But
Well, you can come ride Peter Pan with me because that's my favorite. You get to fly, or
we,
Small World. We can just
we,
go in
we would
circles.
dominate that one.
Sing.
Dominate that one. But it is funny how it isn't funny, but it is curious how people get stuck on fear because it's familiar. How
Yeah.
do people break those cycles? I mean, how do I break it? How do me or me, we,
Right.
how do we break that?
Well, it starts with awareness. You have to be aware that it's driving you.
Right,
Whether fear, limiting beliefs, they all kind of go together, right?
right,
And once you're aware of it, you have to decide which fears are kind of, I'm searching for the word here, which fears are unrealistic and which ones could actually happen.
right.
Because a lot of times it's false evidence appearing real. It's this mind that takes it and runs with it, and you spiral down and all of these what ifs. So you have to look at the fear. I say confront the fear
Sure.
and say, like, there's a 99% chance this is not going to happen.
Mhm.
And then look at the 1% that could actually happen
Right,
and
yeah,
confront it. Like,
right.
what's your fear? Confront it and step forward toward freedom. I think the antithesis of fear, it can be courage, but it's also freedom, right? Because when you are gripped by fear, you're held back, you're like constrained.
Yep.
And then when you break free from that, you're really able to do anything. And that's when you can become a better version of yourself. That's when you can create a life you love. So the first is to acknowledge it and then confront it and step beyond it. And sometimes we tremble, sometimes we shake. Like, we're not human if we don't have that little trepidation, but you have to make the decision and say, this being here, stagnating and being stuck where I am right now is worse than what could happen if I step out.
Yes. Yes. You hear those people that uh I call it the kind of syndrome, where I kind of want to do this or I kind of want to do that, where you're going to kind of get the results. You talked about commitment earlier. Those
Yeah,
people, commitment's not 50-50, commitment's
yeah,
100-100. And
absolutely.
yeah, and you talk about the shoulda and then getting a pile of shoulda. I've,
Right?
I've heard you talk.
Don't shit all over yourself.
Yes. I heard you say that and I laughed out loud in my car. You hear what these people that should have done this and I should have done that, and what they get is a pile of shoulda or pile of
Right?
should. Yeah.
I mean, the thing about life is we're all going to hit that last moment of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And they say you reflect back.
Right.
And do you want to get to the end of your life and say, I wish I would have?
Right.
Or do you want to take it the other way and say, wow, I can't believe I did that? Right? Like, I lived life on all cylinders. I went full speed ahead, running toward the life that I truly wanted, the life that I desired, living fully, embracing the moments and all the opportunities that came with it. I was courageous enough to do that. And wow, yeah, I made mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. But look at it now. Like, look at what I gained because I was brave enough to
Yes.
step forward.
Boom. Yeah, I want to live a life. I want to be like a dog that just saw the gate fly open. I want to rock it out of that bad boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
My dog does that. It's crazy. Sasha, she'll just take off. And it's like, wow, but she's so happy.
Yeah.
Just so happy. And you think about that and you see it with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the people that are living what I call the caged life, and they're almost just lifeless.
Yeah,
They're just going through the motions.
I
And
know.
then you see people that are like fully in life, and it's like they have this radiance about them. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa, I want what she's having, right?
Yes.
Like, what is that?
Right. And we work with these type of people. I I love the tough ones. So I love working with these guys because they're an opportunity to have a massive impact. Those are
Right.
really rewarding. But at the same time, I feel sorry for them because they're the prime example that they're unaware that they're unaware.
Yeah.
They're the glass half empty, or they're on the negative train, and they keep working hard every day to maintain their weaknesses
Yeah.
when they don't even know how much happier they could be if they're to just have the courage to do what you're talking about.
Yeah. And it's, what's crazy is people think in like black and white. It's like I either stay here or I'm way over there, and that's scary. But I like to think about changing life as like little increments, one courageous step at a time.
Mm,
Like, here's my goal, and today I'm going to just do one thing that gets me closer to it.
yes.
Because if you're committed to it and you're practicing consistently, you're going to keep stepping forward. And that's true in all areas of your life. You want to save $10,000. How are you going to do it? $1 at a time. You
Right.
want to lose 20 pounds. How are you going to do it? 1 pound or even an ounce at a time, right?
Right.
And so when you start looking at goals, yes, sometimes they're wildly ambitious and they seem like you can't reach them. But if you're really courageous and you're stepping forward each and every day, you can achieve those goals. And eventually those wins stack up. And then suddenly you don't even realize you're living the life that you've always wanted. It's
Yeah.
right there.
Ugh, so good. You're talking about goals, and uh, I talk to companies and individuals, and they have all these. We talked a little bit about this off air. I mean, everyone has all these mechanical goals and these number goals and all these goals, but then they talk about how they want to have a culture of excellence, and nowhere in their goals did they have stuff about relationships.
Right.
And I always say that relationships are the true power grid. Do you and you're a big why girl. Like, you got to
Yes.
have your why.
Mhm.
When you talk to people about setting their goals, how do you get them to do you have any tricks or have any special like angles you take on getting them to have their why within their goal? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So there are a few things you said. First of all, relationships, and the other is why.
Mhm.
Um, so let's go with
I'm getting
let's talk
tired of
about
all.
relationships first, and then we'll go into why.
Uh,
So talking about relationships, I like to ask people right away because yes, they'll have their career goals. Almost every person that comes to me for high performance coaching comes to me for a career goal.
right,
And this is the question I like to ask them. Are you truly successful if you're excelling in your career and your relationships are falling apart?
right,
Period.
right,
It's the same with your health, right? If your relationships are thriving and you're blowing it away, you're crushing it in your career, but you're unhealthy and your energy levels are low, are you really living fully? So you have to have everything aligned. And I think relationships are a game changer, whether it's personal or professional. You have to have that emotional
right,
intelligence. You have to be able to connect with people, because if not, then you're trying to be an island and you won't achieve success at the levels that you possibly can.
right. Yeah.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say going into why, but go ahead, talk about
No, no.
relationships and then we'll go there.
No, go for it. You're on fire. I was telling you, I was snowballing you with stuff. I was getting tired of all this good answer stuff. Uh,
I'm
your
sorry.
quality's way too good. No, hit me,
Well,
sister. Hit me with your why.
it's interesting you say that, Brad, because I do a lot with leadership development.
Mhm.
And one of the tenets of becoming a really effective leader is to embody your
Yeah,
message. And I live the life that I'm talking about. So it's very natural for me because I'm aligned, I'm congruent, I have integrity with it. I don't tell you to do something that I wouldn't do myself.
right.
And so it does come
Yeah,
very naturally and easily to me.
it does. That's for sure. You are a rock star. Tell us about your why, sister.
Yeah, so I find that why becomes like this crazy ethereal thing when people say like, what's your purpose or what's your why?
Yep.
And it creates anxiety. People are like, I don't know my purpose. Oh my gosh. They like freak out.
Sure.
And I'm like, hey, exhale. This is where my yoga and mindfulness training comes in. Like, calm down, relax. This is a good thing, right?
Yep.
So let's discover it. And there are 3 really simple questions that I've discovered.
I love that word discover. Go for it.
Who do you want to be? How do you want to relate to others? And what do you want to create in the world? And when you can answer those 3 questions, you'll be clear on your why.
Yes. I don't necessarily think you have to search for those things. I think those
Right.
things are all inside you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just think people have a hard time clarifying it. And so
Mhm.
those questions are really clarifying questions.
Yes.
We talked about clarity at the beginning
Right.
of our talk today. It's really important to be clear. So when you think about your purpose and you talked about aligning goals with your purpose, it comes back to these 3 things. Who do you want to be? Like, Brad, how are you going to show up? Are you being intentional about it? Or are you haphazard?
Yeah.
If you want to live fully, are you waking up each and every day and saying, I'm going to live fully? Or are you just rolling out of bed and hamster on a wheel? Here's my coffee. Here's my newspaper, getting in the car, or in COVID days, getting on your computer. Or, are you really intentional? I'm going to show up with joy and full energy and vibrancy.
Yes.
And then how do you want to relate to others? I mean, this is what we go talk about with relationships. When people are in your presence and they leave, what are they taking away from your interaction?
Yes.
And then what do you want to create in the world? Like, that's the big vision. That's the mission. What is it that you're all about?
I love this. This is so good. One, these are all controllables.
Yes.
And I mean, if you control it, you have a shot. And then, 2, I talk about the same stuff. People do get stressed out about these things, but the cool
Yes.
thing is that, like, it's not like you're creating these things out of thin air. They're already in you, so you don't
Right.
need to go hunting for these things. You just need that, it's inside you. Uh,
Yes.
and then I love that, I hear you talking about serving, and I often ask people when they're stressed out or if they feel like they're in a perceived slump in life, which is, just your own paradigm
Yeah.
uh, on things, which generally isn't true. Are you serving? Because you can't not be happy and serve.
Right.
I mean, you can't. It's studies been show that you can't be blessed and stressed, or feel gratified and crummy at the same time. You can't feel both at the same time. So if you're serving others, you're going to be happy. And again, that can come from within too.
Exactly. I mean, in the end, you mentioned control. You can only control your attitude, your effort, and your actions.
Yep.
There is nothing else. So when we get stressed, when we get anxious, when we get sad, depressed, it all goes back to, are you focusing on what you can control, or are you letting all the noise of the world, and there is a lot of noise out there,
Yes.
come in and take
Yeah.
over?
Man, you are a rock star. I think I could go another 2 hours with Hruska Nation.
I know, this is so much fun. I'm like, wait a second, is there a part 2 to this? A part
Yeah.
3? Like, we can just keep going.
Oh man, the Asheville, North Carolina sister is blowing the airwaves here, just crushing it. Hey, we are almost out of time. We got like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I am kicking you loose. Can you tell us, you have a really cool life planner? Now, I don't know if it's just I wrote in my notes, Extraordinary Life Planner, or is it actually called that?
Yeah, no, that's what I call it. It's an
Okay.
extraordinary life planner. And what you do with it is, at the top, and I don't even have it right now with me to show. I usually have a big one hanging on my wall, but it got taken down when I was moving stuff around recently.
You crazy.
Basically, what it is a visual way to look at your goals. Because what happens is, if we set these wildly ambitious goals, we might kind of push them to the side. We don't look at them every day. And research shows that if you're not looking at it, if you're not intentional about it, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So I like to have in the areas of career, relationships, health, and finance, big, wildly ambitious goals. This is like where you are now and where you think you could be, then 10x it.
Love
So
it.
take it big, very wild, very ambitious, and achievable, because you can achieve it. We limit ourselves, but we shouldn't. So
Right.
from there, then you have daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly goals. So each day you have a goal. What are you going to do? What are 3 things that can move the needle toward your career goal? What are 3 things you can do to move the needle toward your health goal? And because it's visual, you're looking at it all the time, you're really in it. You're really intentional about it. Every day you see it. And maybe you don't get everything done, and then you just put it up there the next day.
Right. Yeah.
But the goal is consistency. Out of all of the things that we've learned in high performance, it's clarity and consistency that really are the needle movers. It's not about trying to take on great change all at once. It's about little things, little actions consistently over time that make the big difference.
I love it. I love that. And that's so good, so important. We talk about how it just takes 15 seconds of courage to do any of those things. People, you talk about little things. People talk about they want big changes. They got these big dreams. They think that they got to do all these big things, and so they
Yes.
get super anxious about it. But it really, it takes speaking, for instance. A lot of people are so afraid to speak in front of groups,
Right.
but if they just give themselves a chance, they come to find that they got a lot of good things to say. People really want to listen to them. They got great ideas. It just takes 15 seconds of courage, just a few inches stepping forward, just one step, just one penny, just 1 pound. They just need 15 seconds of courage to do any of those things. I love it, little lady.
And you know where that courage comes from goes back to that why. It took me, I was coaching for a few years with very little to no social media presence.
Right.
And when the pandemic hit, I was like, I've got to go live on LinkedIn. Like
Yeah.
all my in-person networking is gone. And
Right.
I was like, oh, I don't want to do videos. I don't want to do videos. And it was all that fear, all those limiting beliefs, all of that self-judgment. And my why was greater than my excuses, because I'm a single mom of 3 kids.
Right.
I don't have the option of hanging out and hoping things work out. I have to make them work. And so that's something, when you talk about like, how do you get courage? You connect with your why.
Yeah.
And again, your why is greater than your excuses. And if it's not, then maybe you need to look at that and see what's going on with you.
Yeah, that's so good. You hear about all these stories about people's wives. I was reading not too long ago, there was a 140-pound mom that lifted a car to save her baby. She had a pretty good why. That's a pretty good why.
Yeah.
Your why has to be strong enough to manage your knockdowns, and
Yeah.
you've got an emotional investment if you have a why.
Yeah,
It's not a
absolutely.
sustainable plan if you don't have a why.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
I
hey,
couldn't agree more, Brad.
yes. Well, I believe in everything you're doing, friend. You are awesome. You have 30 to 45 seconds before we kick you loose. 30 to 45 seconds. We've got 5 continent wide listening to you right now. What would you say to them if how can they out improve their previous best self? 30 to 45 seconds to talk to those peeps. How can they out improve their previous best self?
I would say go back to those 3 C's of creating a life you love. Get clear on who you want to be, how you want to relate to others, what you want to create in the world, and then courageously step forward, one courageous step at a time, consistently. That's where commitment comes in, right? Like, be committed to your growth, be committed to being the best version of yourself. And at first it feels like work, but eventually it just becomes you. You embody it.
That's so good. All right. Well, I do really I know you're busy. You're everywhere, and like today you've just been slammed, yet you made time for us. So I really appreciate you. I know everyone out there appreciates you. before we take off, what are the best ways if someone wanted to get a hold of Julie? What are the best ways to do that?
I live on LinkedIn. It's where I am at. I put content out Monday through Friday on there. I also have a website, powerfulleaders.com. Email is a really good way, like good old fashioned email. Julie@powerfulleaders.com is probably the most direct, best way to get a hold of me, because LinkedIn Messenger, wow,
It's
man,
cool.
things get buried in there.
Oh yeah, I feel you. Cool beans. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it, and make it a great day.
Thank you so much for having me.